Man, we got lucky. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and on today's episode we are back on the GTX project. Last episode we went ahead and did a ton of sheet metal work to the engine bay. We smoothed out all of the firewall, frame rails got rebuilt from the previous crash, and we also smoothed out the strut tower braces and deleted a bunch of little holes and unnecessary items. Oh, and we also put in a Hellcat Redeye engine built by Late Model Engines with a 3-liter Whipple supercharger for good measure. Now, in the comment section on the last episode, I asked you guys if you think the hood would fit, and a good amount of you were pretty optimistic and pretty positive about the situation and thought, maybe a little bit of trimming here and there. So this episode, we are going to find out whether or not the hood fits and clears the supercharger, and we're also going to be building a set of long tube headers for this engine. Now, we did not do a transmission mount last episode, so we still have to do that, and we also need to finalize welding our subframe connectors. So first things first, we're gonna get this thing up in the air, do some welding, and make our transmission brace to get our engine completely situated in the engine bay so it does not move anymore. And then we'll start building some long tube headers for this bad boy and getting this car looking more and more like the hot rod it's gonna be. All right, guys, our first step is done. We got our subframe connectors all welded in, as you can see, and we got our transmission brace done. So the engine is solid, motor mounts are tight. We're ready to do some headers, but before we do that, it's a little dark under here, don't you think? I can't stand how dark it is under this car. I've thought about doing some lighting underneath the car, and a lot of you guys have said in the comment section, it's too dark, I can't see what you're doing under the car, and since we're gonna be under the car for a while to do these headers, then today's sponsor comes in perfectly, and that is HiKunt. So HiKunt reached out to us. They make these really cool grid pattern lights you've probably seen online in like detail shops and also some other fancy shops, and they basically interclip and they make this awesome grid pattern. So this is, I think, going to be our answer for our lighting problem. They obviously watched the channel and thought, well, you guys could probably use some lights. So thankfully they sent us over a package, and we're gonna go ahead and install that on this back wall. If I put it across this wall, it should light up this whole area and put some light underneath the car. So let's get this thing unboxed, clip it together, and see if we can hang it. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it across the back wall and get started on our headers. See if this works. Just a simple plug down here. Yeah, I'd say it's bright under here. Holy mackerel. That is sick. Look how much light is under here now. That is so cool. You guys have to get this for your shop. This is unbelievable. They gave us a little starter kit, and it all clips together really nice and tight. You can put it on with zip ties or screws or anything you want. Man, what a difference. I can see perfectly fine under here now. Got great lighting, even around the back side of things. Ideally, I'd have another one on that side, but I think this is perfect. I wonder how different the lighting is over here now. That looks pretty sick. Yeah. All right, let's get back to work. now that we have our lighting situation figured out, look at that, it looks so cool. We can start working on our headers. So, there's a couple things you need when you build headers. First, you need head flanges. Got these bad boys, order them from Jegs. They look like they're laser cut and they have like got like a little lip thing in there, so I'm gonna have to cut that. These are D-shaped obviously, so that's gonna be super fun when I go to finally mate our primaries in there. The next thing you need are your collectors. I like using slip fit, like a million times better than your formed collector. Formed collectors are what we put on the Bel Air. We can put a link in the description below so you can see exactly how we built those headers compared to these headers. Now, depending on budget, you're gonna wanna use slip fit or formed fit. I like using slip fit because they just flow 10 times better. There's a lot better rate of the exhaust actually being able to scavenge, even though there's a supercharged setup. The smoother your transition's gonna be into the spike, the better these headers are gonna work and the more power you're gonna make. So, slip fit are gonna be always better than the formed headers. Now, we're gonna be using Stainless Brothers material. This is 16 gauge 305, I think it is. They stamp it inside here, I believe. Maybe they don't. And then we also have some leftover material, I think from Burns. And we have some bigger swoops here that we might use up. If you're doing exhaust systems, guys, so you're doing headers, you always want to leave all of your drops like this, like these little 45s and stuff like that, because you never know when you're going to use them down the road. So I try to keep as much as I can. I throw away the straights sometimes, but most of the time I keep all of this stuff, every project I do. So the science behind the headers that we're doing on this car, since it's supercharged, the primaries are not going to be crazy twisty. We're trying to get to the point as far as coming out of the head into the collector as quick as possible while still making them look kind of cool. So when you supercharge a car, the air is getting forced in, so you're forcing air in the combustion chamber, creating a big explosion, and then the air's got to get out, those exhaust gases. So you don't want to make like super twisty headers that create a lot of back pressure on a supercharged application. But you're forcing all of that air in, all that exhaust pressure wants to get out, and it wants to get out now. Otherwise, you'll have issues as far as efficiency goes. So first things first, we're gonna get our head flanges bolted in the car, and then we're gonna locate our collectors. And then what I like to do is I'll run one primary to connect the dots, and then we'll go ahead and set up our partial fixture on the bench. So let's get those head flanges in first, and then start locating our collectors. All right, so the first stage of our build is almost there. We're almost ready to build our fixture and take over the bench. So I just want to show you guys real quick exactly what we got. So I usually like to put the collector on this footboard right here. So this angle leads us right into a V-band, which then will lead us right into a 45, and then we'll come around here with the rest of the exhaust. This is a great point where you want to be level with the frame rail. We have a little bit of poke because it's a V-band, so we need a little room. But all you have to do is get the furthest point. So this is going to be your straight shot. Your front primary is going to be a straight shot because that's basically the longest one. The rest of them are going to wrap over. So this one is going to wrap over, come down here to here. This one will come over and go to this side, and then this will go to this side. I'm not worried about equal length headers because this is a supercharged car. I just need to get the exhaust out. Equal length is for NA power and for scavenging. So you want equal length headers when you have an NA, you want to make the most amount of power. With a supercharger, you don't really have to worry about it too much. Yes, you will make some more power if they're equal length, but with a supercharger this big and the engine's displacement being this much, this thing just basically just sneezes and it makes 1,000 horsepower. So we're going to be doing an unequal length style header, which is going to keep this nice and tidy and everything looking really nice and symmetrical. This side's going to be a little bit different, obviously, because of this guy, but we might be able to get lucky and come inside of here and do a straight shot back. If not, we'll probably jog around this steering rack. So we're going to go ahead and get this off the car right now. We're going to make a fixture on the bench. We'll finish these 3 primaries on the bench because I know if I stay tight to this primary, I'll be fine. I'm not going to hit anything. So we'll put it back in the car and see what it looks like. All right, so we got the header out of the car, and now it's time to build our partial fixture. So this is what's going to allow me to build the rest of the header outside of the car and not have to kill myself to try to get all these primaries to fit and look nice while being all up in the car and trying to do that above my head. So This is the old fixture from the LS headers we built for the Bel Air. So we're gonna go ahead and cut these locators off and reuse them to position this collector. So we'll probably end up tack welding this to this little V-shaped guy right here. And that's gonna give us our clocking and all that stuff. So when we go to break it apart, we don't have to worry about this moving, because this and this stays in position. You make your little timing marks when you go to break it all apart, and then you can weld it all up, put it all back together, and then final weld your collector and your flange. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this up now, drill some new holes to match our bolt pattern for our Hemi flange, which looks a lot wider than the LS. And then we'll go ahead and start making the rest of our primaries on the bench. As I mentioned before, I'm not caring about equal length, but I'm caring about visual. I want it to visually look good. And the way you do that is by stacking your primaries together and nesting them and making them flow. You want them all tight. The tighter you get your pipes, the better the header's gonna look. So we're gonna go ahead and get that all situated now and start making our runs. All right guys, our first version of the passenger side header is all set, and I'll walk you through the design. So we went ahead and did a straight shot on the first primary. I nested this one in right next to it, and then our next two primaries we went under on this one, so down here, and then went right on top with this guy, and then nested it down inside of there. So from the top it's going to look pretty cool. It's not super twisty. This is definitely a force flowed header. It's going to get everything out. There's no sharp ends anywhere. There's no resistance anywhere. So for a really high horsepower supercharged application, this is going to work great. So before we break it down and completely weld it, obviously I want to make sure it fits. We're going to go ahead and test fit the header in the car, make sure everything clears, it's all good to go, and then we'll put it back in our fixture that we have here, break these primaries loose, final weld these all together, put it all back in, and then weld our collector, weld our flange, and then this header's done, and we can start working on the driver's side. Now the driver's side's got that steering arm, the steering shaft in the way, so we'll have to change the header design a little bit, but we'll explain to you guys how we're going to do that now. So we're going to go ahead and fit this in the car and see what it looks like. Oh my god, I got it. Oh, I got lucky. Man, we got lucky. So, see that primary there? It's like 1/8 inch away. The header's only finger tight, so I know when I tighten it, it'll be about 1/4 inch away. So I'm in this pocket here, we're in this pocket here, we're maximizing the amount of room we have, and this is gonna work out great. So this is kind of like the blueprint of where we want this side to be. And as you can see, we got a jog around this. We might be able to get away with coming in here. We're trying not to get too ahead of ourselves, but I know that side's gonna be pretty simple. So we're gonna go ahead and break this down now, put it back in the fixture. We'll get it all welded up back in the car, and then we'll start working on this side. All right, driver's side is always more fun, and that's because we have steering things and starters, and thankfully on this car we have the starter and the steering shaft both on the same side. So we're gonna have a big starter that's right here. If you can envision this guy right here. So I had to jog this first primary around the steering shaft because the number 2 primary and the number 1, to get both of them through here would have been a real difficult. I don't want them balled all up. I think I'm gonna come a straight shot and then I'm gonna follow this profile and then come in here with this same little kick, and then these two will come over on top and won't have to worry about that. I think I have to build out this one on the car before I go over to the workbench and build a fixture just like we did with the passenger side, because I don't want to just guess where this thing is. So if I can get to this point, I can get it tacked onto my actual flange like I did with this one, then I can finish it out. And then these two are going to be easy because they're going to be up top, up here, away from the starter, away from the steering. So we're going to go ahead and get this one in here now, get that tacked in place, and then we'll be able to get this off of the car and then go over to the bench and start our time lapse. Well, I thought I got it first try, but I got about 90%. So we got our huge pocket for our starter. I jogged this over to match this guy, so it looks really nice and pleasant under the car. We'll have our starter here, but this primary here, yeah, let me see. So this guy, you see how it's in our little hole? So it's hitting the universal joint like hard as nails. So I'm just gonna shorten this up. So I just have to take this and bring this all the way in and then come out with this. So this has to come this way about a 1/2 inch. That's why everything's tacked together, but everything else is good. We're golden on the 4th primary, comes up and over. It's nice and smooth. It'll look pretty cool, I think, from the top. And we got plenty of room around the motor. And our collectors are, this one's a little bit longer than this one because we had to jog the whole header outside, as opposed to this side where we're nice and tight inside of here, and the steering obviously is an issue. So I'm gonna pop the header out now, make this adjustment, final check it, do a final weld, and then for you, those of you who have stuck it out to the end of this episode, we're gonna see if that hood clears that supercharger. So don't go anywhere just yet. All right guys, we're finally done with the header, and I think this time it's gonna fit like a gem. So we went ahead and moved the primary number 3 back significantly. So this should give us way more room for the steering D shaft to slide right through there. Everything's welded up and we're ready for the final test fit. So interested to see how this looks in the car, but I think it's gonna look pretty cool. One thing I wanted to ask you guys, if you wanted to see any sort of how-to videos coming up about welding titanium, aluminum, stainless steel, mild steel. We're even thinking about doing a live so that you guys could ask questions as we're welding, as we're working with materials, so that you guys can get more fine-tuned about how to build your own headers, how to weld, how to do fabrication and get involved with this stuff. Start working with your hands. So comment below, let me know what you guys want to see and what you guys want to learn, so we can do that for you guys real soon. Because it's all about building community here on YouTube's and making everything work. So now we're gonna pull the header in. And if you've made it this far in the video and you're waiting to see if that supercharger clears the hood, we're gonna throw that thing on next as well and see exactly what we got going on. So let's throw this header in, see what it looks like, and get the car back on the ground. We finally got the hood on the car and the moment of truth. It looks tight, it looks real tight. But before we shut the hood, headers are done, engine bay is done. We got the whole K-member in. We got some Willwood 6-piston front brakes that threw on there. These are gonna be a vast upgrade from what originally was on there. And surprisingly, the factory wheels actually fit on the front of the car, which I'm pretty blown away by. I think he's gonna do some big boy 20s on this thing. Hopefully he doesn't go too big. I think a muscle car is happy around like an 18, 19, somewhere around there. But yeah, it's gonna be a killer. So next episode, we're gonna be finishing out a closeout panel up here. We're gonna be putting our radiator in. Hopefully we get a throttle body on this guy, and the cold air intake, permitted the hood fit clears the supercharger. So let's do that right now. Let's see if it clears. Would you look at that? It is very tight. Let me get a flashlight. Full transparency, I already shut the hood before I filmed this closeout to make sure that it clears. And it looks like there's about a business card. So that's another thing we'll be doing next episode. We're going to be cutting some of the support braces out of the center of the hood and coming up with a solution, put some strength back into it. But in the meantime, you can kind of see how close it is. It's not hitting in the front. It's like a business card. And you can see here, you know, the hood has some movement. You know, that's where it's hitting. You can hear it. So there's probably about a 1/4 inch in the back. I'd probably be fine back there. But in the front, yeah, it's like a business card. So it's got like barely any give to it. So that's it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, put in the comment section below whether you want to see some how-to videos as far as fabrication and welding goes. We're gonna go live probably after we hit 10,000 subs. So make sure you tell all your friends about the channel. We're gonna be on the DeLorean again probably next week. And we'll be cranking back and forth on the GTX and just trying to get both these cars done. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you do all the things to help with the algorithm. We'll keep growing this channel and keep moving forward. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.